Mr. Hari dons various hats. He was an entrepreneur, management consultant, a travel talk show host, a radio show host, and he calls himself an eternal student, very endearingly. He spent over the last 15 years as an entrepreneur, built India's first travel community called Holiday IQ, after raising capital from some of the world's largest venture capital firms, including Tiger Global and Axel. And he scaled up the travel community to over 8 million across India. 8 million users across India. Recently, he sold the company to a major European travel company. Thank you, Hari, for joining us. The first question that came out was, what does IQ in Holiday IQ stand for?
So as he mentioned earlier, Holiday IQ is a travel community. And what I was trying to do with that is trying to bring together Indian travelers on a common platform. So essentially what they're trying to do is all Indian travelers who have traveled before go on to holidayiq.com and add their experiences, their tips, their stories about travel that they have done before. And the reason for doing that is to help all other people plan their future travel. And they can do it in a smart and intelligent way. So the intelligence of so many people, 8 million people all across India, in one place, all about traveling within India, traveling outside India, is what Holiday IQ was.
So we wanted to know when you started off as a chartered accountant, and then you ended you're an evolving person, being a different roles that you have done. So just wanted to hear about what are those questions that got you into this.
You see, one of the challenges of being successful is that once you're successful in something, it is very difficult to leave that behind and go for the next thing, right? It's very difficult. Because you have to leave behind your success. So every time I've looked at something else, I've asked myself 3 things. First is, am I going to have fun doing that new thing? The most important thing I've learned in life is whenever you do a job or you do anything, you must have fun doing it. If you don't have fun, I don't think you should do it. You should not do it just for money or for prestige or whatever, or because your parents told you or whatever. You must do it only if you think you're going to have fun. That is the first point. The second question I asked myself was, do I think I can do it well? Do I have the skills and the capability to do it well? That is the second question I asked myself. And that's something that is useful to ask because you don't want to do something not well, right? You want to do it well. And sometimes that helps you to learn, okay, these are some of the skills I don't have, so I need to prepare for that. So that is the second question. The third question, which is very important question for me, is in whatever I'm going to do next, will it make a difference to a large number of people? Will it make an impact?
So, whom did you believe as an inspiration to become a founder of an organization like Holiday?
Interestingly, Pranav, I can't say that there was one particular person that is the inspiration. One thing that has always been inspiring for me is people who do, who are not scared to do a new thing, who are not scared to try a new thing.
Like, since you're in the travel industry, I would like to know how long do you think this would take back to go to normal, since this virus has hit? I don't think many people would like to go and travel very often.
So when we look at that, saying, okay, how will this industry do? How much time will it take to get normal? We have to look at not just the whole industry, but the key players in that industry. Who are the key parts of that industry? So I will answer that in 3 parts. First is airlines. Airlines are a big part of travel and obviously tourism, right? So airlines, are quite badly hit because people are not traveling now. They can't travel even if they want to, right? Because it's closed down. So financially, airlines are not in a good place, so they will take a few months to recover from that. So my own sense is that it will probably take about 6 months to 12 months for airlines to come back to some kind of a normal situation. The second is, in tourism, the other important thing is how do you cross borders, right? If you have to go abroad, there are all kinds of requirements. You need, passport, visa, so on and so forth, right? Now one new thing will be added. because of this virus and medical things, in the future, people will look for tests and inoculations and things like that, right? So that will also take some time to fall into place. My reading is that in the next 6 months, you're going to see a lot of new processes coming for all this. The last category of players who are going to find it, who have to figure out how to solve it, is hotels, right? Hotels and resorts that we go and stay in. That is going to be tougher. You know why? Because we go and stay in those rooms, right? We stay for 2 nights, 5 nights, whatever in those rooms. We'll be very, very cautious, saying, there should be no virus there. It should be very clean, etc., etc. So my feeling is hotels will have to do a completely, they will have to do so many things to gain confidence from customers that they are clean and there's no virus there and so on. I think that will take also a little bit of time, maybe about 12 months. So my reading is that the whole travel thing to come back to a reasonable degree of normalcy will take between 6 to 12 months, but maybe closer to 12 months.
What is fascinating is that you're reading history, and many times for children also, history becomes a set of dates alone, right? Yeah. So if you were to, in your opinion, how is history so important to the contemporary world for our children? Why should children learn history? And in your opinion, what are your learnings from history that you have applied in your life or its relevance today, right, for our children?
So I want to, Raghav, I'll take that question first to say, how do I see history, right? So I don't see history. So I'll give an example. I'm reading up on medicine in ancient India currently, right? It has nothing to do with dates. It has nothing to do with kings. It has nothing to do with any of the things that we typically learn in history. But it's a huge part of ancient Indian civilization. Do you know that some of the most interesting things about hygiene that we are talking about today were mentioned in documents in India 5,000 years ago? Vedas and Upanishads and all that, which are 5,000 years old, have things written which are very specifically about hygiene and so on. So I think going back and learning about the past is not learning in a very limited way what we call history. It is a lot more. There are so many things to learn about the past. So that's one part. So today when you have a subject called history, it might be a slightly it might not be too much, or it might be a specific part of the past. But I think there is a lot more to the past that we can learn. That's one point. The second question, I think, Raghav, your point is, how is that important for today's life, right? Why is that relevant? And see, they say that people who don't understand history will repeat the same mistakes. If you understand history, you will never repeat the same mistakes. That is very true. When you know what happened in the past and how something happened and what led to something happening, when you see today, you can relate it back to that. Oh, I remember reading somewhere that, this happened in a country and they did not take care of it, and this happened and therefore then they went down. And then you learned about that, and then next time you are faced with a situation, you can relate it back to something that you read about or you heard about the past. The past is a tremendous storehouse of lessons for us about how to do things today. The other thing that the past is also very good. If you read the past and you know the past well, you will learn so many patterns from how the past came about that you will be able to use that for predicting the future also. That is also very, very powerful. Not just for today. If you say, how will something be tomorrow? One of the ways of answering that question is to go back and see how did many of these kind of things happen in the past, and what led to that, and what stopped it from happening, and then see, okay, how will all this therefore happen in the future? So both for today and equally for tomorrow, knowing about the past, I think, is a very valuable tool and knowledge. So for me, I find knowing about the past very interesting. And don't be limited by what typically we have called history, which is typically a set of countries and a set of battles and a set of, I think those are all very useful. But go beyond that. Learn so much more that is there. What happened in various countries and various places and various civilizations at various points in time. That be of great use. And they're all wonderful stories anyway. So you will enjoy reading them also.
when do you think this coronavirus will end?
Good question, Pranav. I wish I knew the answer. The world's greatest experts are all trying to answer that question, so we should leave it to them to answer. But I'll tell you, there's another way to think about this, Pranav. Maybe, and see, I think the immediate problem, right, that we are all in lockdown and all that, will probably gradually ease off in the next maybe a month or so, and then over the next 2-3 months, I'm sure it will ease off, right? Because it has happened in other countries, and I'm sure slowly it will happen in India also. But I think the larger question is, does that mean that the virus is over? We don't know, right? Because the viruses are, they are infectious, and at some point they can come back. But the good news is that a lot of people are working on both on the medicines for treating that, as also on the vaccinations to prevent it. So I think once we are past this immediate problem, as we go forward, I think we will be the whole world will be in a much better position to handle this problem, right? So we don't have to worry so much about this coming later, because I think we'll be in a much better place. But as far as immediately is concerned, my reading is that we are probably will take another 2-3 months for us to come out of this immediate phase. So you might be, your summer holidays might be over, but at the end of that, I think you will probably have school again, and you will be back to normal.
Yeah. Hari, thanks for those questions, and especially for those very perceptive answers that you've given us. I think to wind off this very interesting curiosity conversation with Hari, I thought one would be, if you were to think of 1 or 2 questions for our children to ponder over in the next couple of days, right? And because I thought this event was also at the center about curiosity and questions, we thought some of the questions that you think our children should ponder over in the next couple of days, and I think they have enough time to build new habits, ask questions, and so on. So I thought we can end with that note, or your message for our children even, and that's I thought we'll end with that note.
It's I have a couple of things to probably talk about here. One is about the question, right? So my suggestion would be that in the next 2 to 3 days, I would suggest that all of you should sit and think or ask yourself, what are the 2 or 3 questions about this whole virus thing that you have not heard anybody ask? You have not heard anybody ask. It has not come up in any conversations that you've had. It has not come up in this thing. And you think to yourself, is there a question that other people are missing? I think it's a very useful skill to have, because then you will start to think in many directions, and then you will come up with an interesting question. As I said before, the trick in life is not to find answers. The trick in life is to find the best questions and the most interesting and the relevant questions. So maybe the children can spend the next 2-3 days trying to find questions that they have not heard anybody else ask. And once they've got the question, they can go to Google and see whether actually anybody has thought of an answer. Maybe the answer might be in Argentina, or it might be in Mongolia. It doesn't matter, right? But we have to find questions that you haven't heard. And that is an interesting experience to go through, right? So I would say that is a good thing to try and do. And I think that's, after all, what Q-Shala is also trying to do, right? To get people to think out of the box, differently, critically. So that's possibly a good thing to do. What do you think?
Hari, a heartfelt thank you from all of us from Team Q-Shala. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, guys. All the best.
Yeah, thank you.